Daniel Penny walks free. Trump invites Xi Jinping to his inauguration. Biden steals $20 billion from Russia and loans it to the Ukraine. And I bet you can guess Putin's response. Michael Saylor tried to get Microsoft on board with Bitcoin, and the board's response will shock you. And character AI continues to give lessons in how to subjugate humans that would make Skynet proud. Drew, welcome.
I'm gonna start saying thank you to AI now. I think I'm converted now. Good morning. How
and
you
thank
doing,
you.
chat?
Yes.
Do you need anything? Can I help you? I'm staying away from character AI. All right, starting at the top. Daniel Penny was acquitted of negligent homicide and manslaughter recently. The response has been mixed. It's kind of breaking against party lines. I wanted to see
on social, you're saying?
On social, yeah.
Right.
I live on Twitter. I wanted to see what your response was to see how you felt when you first read the news of the case.
So the honest answer is I don't know how I feel about this specific case until I can see what happened leading up to the moment where he puts him in the chokehold. Because to me, everything is about that. So this one to me feels more, you have to run it as a thought exercise. Because if Neely was not presenting like a clear and present danger, then putting him in a chokehold is just too risky. You cannot play around with that. But if he really was presenting a clear and present danger, he's in people's face, and let's say they tried to like back him off calmly and it escalates, and then yes, I can see how you could justify then needing to subdue him, and certainly getting him in a chokehold from a Brazilian jiu-jitsu standpoint makes a lot of sense. But if he wasn't doing that, then, and you just like go cowboy and you get in there, then I have a problem. So this one is, I didn't hear what the jury heard, so I don't know how I would have reacted in that. But when I run it as a thought experiment and I say, do I want people to be afraid to stand up for somebody weak? The answer is no, I do not. And so everybody that's really trained to fight will give you one answer over and over and over and over and over. I am going to get out of this fight. I am going to diffuse the situation. I'm going to walk away. I'm going to run if I have to. I'm not afraid of looking like a coward. When it's about me, I am getting out of this fight no matter what, because they don't want to end up in that situation. They don't want to punch a guy and they hit their head in the curb and they're dead. Violence is so high risk. It is so high risk. So the number of people that say like, look, I'm a trained fighter and I know better, that makes a lot of sense to me. But when you make it about somebody else, now all of a sudden I'm like, I want somebody to feel like I'm not afraid to step in and protect this person, because I know that the judicial system is not going to rain all hell down on me if something goes wrong. So again, thought experiment. Let's say my wife is out alone. My wife is like 5'1.5". She's like 94 pounds soaking wet. And so feisty as she is, if somebody were coming up and threatening her and there were other people there, I would beg them to step in and protect my wife, as I would want them to be able to rely on me to protect their wife, right? Mm-hmm. Like that's the world I want to live in. Now, people have to have good judgment, 1,000%. You cannot be the ass monkey that's like, you're so insecure that you're lashing out and you're being nervous aggressive, but you also can't be the pussy that's afraid of confrontation and you're backing off and letting somebody else get attacked. That shit is crazy. We've all seen footage of that. So in the fantasy, and again, I don't know because I cannot scour the internet as much as I did. I cannot find footage of what led up to him grabbing him and putting him in the chokehold. So in the fantasy where this guy was mentally ill, he's really causing a clear and present danger, and this guy diffuses the situation, and the very unfortunate reality happens that he ends up dying. Cool. That I'm here for. I want people to be able to stand up. I don't want them to be afraid. But again, I don't know what actually happened. So I can run the thought experiment and tell you the world where I want this to exist, how somebody should react if it's not actively dangerous and it's just annoying, leave it alone. If it is just against you, get out of the fight. But if it's against somebody who can't protect themselves, yeah, I would want you to get in the mix.
I'm going to play devil's advocate. Let me put my kind of hat on right now, because what Black Lives Matter is saying is this is another example of a gun-ho vigilante who, at sign of aggression, they immediately default to, I was scared, I had to kill this person. And to your exact point, as a fighter, there's hugely levels in this. And Daniel Penny is a trained, Marine. He's a former vet. Thank you for your service. So I 100% commend you for trying to save those that can't save themselves. However, I think there's a big chasm between I'm stopping violence from happening and I have this person in a headlock so long they die. To your point, I would much rather prefer if Daniel Penny hit him, he falls, hits his head, it's a freak accident now. Now we can at least explain it. But for me to hold somebody for the 45 seconds to a minute and a half that it takes to actually subdue him, at that point, it's like, okay, I don't know if the scared argument is your strongest argument. What do you say to those people?
So what I would do is try to think up on this problem from first principles. So one, removing race out of it entirely. So say it is two unknown suspects, you know nothing about them. And the following scenario plays out. You have somebody violently attacking other people on the train. The person, they are trained in, let's just assume, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Would you rather that he strike him in the head in an attempt to knock him unconscious, or would you rather that he puts him to sleep in a chokehold? Now, I'm a layperson, so maybe there's math on this that I'm just unaware of. But given what I know about head trauma, I would much rather, just from a pure safety standpoint, rather they subdue them with a chokehold. From my layperson standpoint, especially watching MMA, when somebody gets choked out, they wake up. You roll them on their side, they wake up, and seems like that happens over and over and over, and there's no brain damage that I'm aware of. If you hold it past the point that they've passed out, okay, yes, now you're obviously going to run into brain damage because you're not letting the blood leave, I guess, is actually the real problem. Yeah. Not letting the blood leave the head. But head trauma is how you kill somebody. That's how you end somebody's life. So just, again, this is me not looking at data. This is gut instinct that you would, from a likelihood of permanent injury, you would rather they be on the ground. You would rather they get choked until they go limp, that the person then realizes they're out and they let go. Now, you see in the footage that he's still struggling, and so they keep going. And how long they go after he stops, the videos that I've seen all cut before you see him lifeless and he keeps just holding him there. So I don't know if he did that. So going back to thought exercise, I also don't expect anybody to do this perfectly. So again, I'm assuming I know nothing about the race of the two people. Someone's just describing it. And maybe I end up finding out that one of the people's my dad or my wife, whatever. And so I've got to make a decision based on this, knowing they're going to reveal. In fact, God, this is a great way to think about it. Tom, your wife has been involved in a strangulation, but we cannot tell you whether she did the choking or was choked. And so we need you to tell us, sight unseen, how you want this ruled. That is going to put you in a position of, okay, if somebody's in that situation, what do I expect? Now, I don't expect anybody to play it perfectly. But I would expect them, the second they realize that that person is passed out, I would expect them to let go immediately. And so if footage shows person is choked out, people are lifting his hand and dropping it, the guy's out, someone's like shaking my wife saying, you got to let go, they're fucking out. I'd be like, yo, yeah, she fucked up. Like, that's crazy. So if people can step back and describe sight unseen, unknown, which way this goes, and they can lay out, at least now you're talking value system. So my value system is I want anybody, regardless of color, creed, whatever, I want somebody, if they see a clear and present danger against other people, that they would be willing to stand up and defend that person, because it could all too easily be somebody that I love and care about that needs protecting. I hold myself accountable to not being weak in a situation like that and being willing to step in and help if somebody's in clear and present danger. So that's my value system. Now, if the justice system had come in conflict with that and been like, yo, this fucking guy, let's just say that we had all the footage in the world. It was a clear and present danger. He goes in, puts his own life at risk to help other people. I'm like, yo, I'm on that guy's side. And if the justice system had turned against him and he had gone to prison for that, that would have been a violation of my value system. Again, with all the caveats of if you see that they're out and people are telling him, you got to let go, they're out, and he doesn't, and he's laughing and he's like, fuck this guy. Okay, well, that's a totally different story. But all of this feels like it is a thing that you can map out someone's value system. Now, I know there are going to be people that are like, no, under no circumstances, unless they're like stabbing that person to death, like you can't do it. Okay, at least we know their value system. That's not mine. That's how I would approach it.
It's very interesting too to kind of compare this killing versus the Luigi Mangione situation with the assassination of the United Healthcare CEO. Because from my perspective, Daniel Penny, it's a split second decision. Should I help this person? Should I not? The margin of error is enough to kill a man, as we can see. Whereas Luigi meticulously planted it, followed this guy, created a 3D printed silencer for his gun, all these kind of premeditated steps. And yet I feel like the reception from the CEO killing is a bit more fanfare, where the reaction to this killing is a bit more, oh, here goes another one. Like it's not as heroic as you would want to say. Like the thing that is a premeditated crime is being heralded as heroism, when the thing where the guy's literal defense was, I was trying to stop him from hurting other people, is now seen as like a criminal who got off. I think that's just a interesting change in our value system as a country, or at least as media is displaying it. I'll put it that asterisk on top.
That is really terrifying.
Yeah.
So yes, I would agree. Now, again, there's enough missing footage that I don't expect the Daniel Penny thing to be clean cut. If we could see the whole thing, I think people would bounce one way or the other. Without that, I get why it falls into a bit of a gray area. Now, why people are treating him like he's a villain, that part, again, just comes down to value system. And I'm not stupid. I know some of this plays into it's white versus black, which is fucking terrible from a cultural narrative perspective. Just, God, like of all things. But the fact that people are cheering for the assassination of a CEO because they don't like the company and the company's product, that's insane to me. That is, again, we talked about this in the previous episode, that is French Revolution, behead people territory. That is a level of sinister that, to the quote of the line between good and evil runs through every human heart, that brings that up, man. That's somebody who's like, I'm not interested in changing the system. I am interested in burning everything down. I want to see people die. And when countries break like that, it gets real ugly really fast. So that one scares me a lot. So yeah, the fact that people view that as a heroic act is pretty crazy, especially if you're not going to be able to debate the pros and cons of the system that we have in the US. Then now you're going off of narrative. You're going off of something where you don't necessarily understand the realities. So take capitalism. Capitalism is a deeply flawed system. There's no doubt about that. But it is so much better than every other system that I'm not sure what people are arguing for. Especially like, my trifecta of books. If you have not read The Gulag Archipelago, Mao the Unknown Story, and The Rise and Fall of the Third Reich, to see just how wrong every other system goes whenever you try to do top-down authoritarian rule. Yes, you're going to get weird incentives in a capitalistic system, but it's not nearly as murderous as every other system. Literally murderous. Yeah. Read The Red Famine.
I think there's a thread here between these two, because it seems like in both cases, these guys took justice into their own hands. Is that a byproduct of our lack of trust in the overall system? Like another COVID hangover?
I wouldn't agree with that assessment. So the way that I see the assassination of Brian Thompson is somebody taking justice into their own hands. They have a wildly distorted sense of justice, but they believed that they were doing, he said, they're parasites and they had it coming. Yeah. That's his belief. Whereas in the fight situation, I don't know that that's somebody who felt like they were metering out justice. That's somebody who thought, I'm projecting. Yeah. If I were in that situation, I would not think of myself as doling out justice. I would think of myself as protecting somebody. And so I wouldn't be asking to be above the law. I would be perfectly comfortable being held to whatever the standards are. But that really is about internal set of values. What do you believe somebody ought to do in a situation again, I'm painting a thought experiment as it is far easier than pretending that I was there and I know what happened. But as a thought experiment, if somebody presents a clear and present danger to somebody that can't protect themselves, I could not respect myself if I stayed silent, I stayed in the background. To be the person I want to be, I would have to intervene. Now, would I necessarily be throwing them in a chokehold? No, I'd be trying to de-escalate the situation, blah, blah, blah. But that to me doesn't feel like justice. It feels like values.
Interesting news. We shall see. We'll follow the case and we'll see where it takes us, what happens next, because he still has that civil case that the Neely family has placed against him. So Daniel Penny's not quite out of the water yet. And moving on, Trump invited China's Xi Jinping to the inauguration. Is this a good look to have China's president watch our president get his inauguration?
100%.
Yeah.
So I do not understand people that want there to be stoked animosity between us and the world's other biggest power. We are going to be effective. We already are effectively in a Cold War with them. You don't want to exacerbate that. So there is a reason that JFK and Khrushchev had a direct line between the White House and the Kremlin that started during the Cuban Missile Crisis, because they found that the go-betweens were causing problems. And even in my own life, I used to have an executive assistant. I stopped using an executive assistant because I found that people were not getting an accurate message, or people were ending up on my calendar that I didn't want on my calendar. So I thought, let me just go direct to people. It's a way better system. So Elon Musk also doesn't have a personal assistant. A lot of people, I think, that have this similar kind of reaction. You want heads like that to be in contact with each other. You want them as much as possible to be civil. You want them to be able to reach across the aisle. I believe that every country should want the best for its citizens. I believe every country should want to win. I also believe every country should be honorable. None of us are all the time. Obviously, I'm not saying America is always honorable. We are certainly not. But from a what are my values perspective, that's what I would want to see people do. And Trump having a relation, any president having direct relations with the most important leaders in the world, I think is critical. And so they should build a bridge. He should be talking to people like the leader of North Korea. He should be talking to people in Iran. We should be talking to these leaders 100%.
Is there a line there though? Like, is there a, this person is too bad, quote unquote, for us to talk to us? Or is every dictator, every genocidal maniac who owns a country deserves to have like civil discourse with our president?
I don't think anything bad comes from sitting down with somebody, even if you're just trying to assess who they are. Like, I want to look in their eye. I want to see what I can read. I'm not a politician, so I will be the first to admit that I'm sure there are things that from a world stage perspective, I would be misplaying my cards, and that certain nations are going to read something in some kind of way, and that it's better off not meeting with somebody because it causes some grief to another nation that's more important to me. Like, everything has to be done in priority order.
No, that's true.
But barring that, if I could get people to see the wisdom in meeting somebody face to face and trying to understand what they want, in being able to hopefully de-escalate any situation, to build a personal relationship with somebody, even if they are like outright evil. If I'm Churchill and I discover that Stalin has killed God knows how many tens of millions, over 100 million people in his country, but he's still going to help me win World War II. Yeah, I'm going to meet with him. Yes, I'm going to save my people. I am going to work with this person who is the enemy of my enemy. And I think that world power struggles, like if people want to understand what real anarchy is, at the international level, the only governance is anarchy. The only reason that America is the hegemon is because we can out-violence anybody and we have control of the economic system. If we couldn't out-violence anybody, then all of a sudden we aren't able to do the things that we want to do. People can come and kill us. They can blow things up on international waters. They can do whatever they want, just as America can do whatever it wants, as long as it maintains that dominance. So once you understand, okay, wait a second, this is the law of the jungle at the international level. And the law of the jungle, why would you not want to like be able to size that person up, understand what they're about? Learn how they travel with security. I mean, just the intel that you could pick up, if nothing else, I would want to stand across from my even most sinister enemies.
Yeah. Can you ground this a little bit? Because it's amazing to me that from your perspective, you'll say, I'll sit with anybody, I'll do anything. When a couple of weeks ago, we were seeing, people who are upset that their parents voted for a different person. They didn't even go home anymore. So if somebody is wrestling at home with how do I reach out to the other side? How do I rectify these feelings about me not being able to get along with them? Where Tom can meet with any dictator, genocidist, and figure out a way to kind of see the positive. How do you not the positive?
I was going to say
to see a reason why. To see a reason why it's important to sit down.
So
help us rectify that in our minds.
Here is if you want to understand me, you need only understand the following. You need to know what your goal is. Once you know what your goal is, then that goal makes demands. So if my goal is to be the hegemon in a world where North Korea might shoot nuclear weapons at me, I want to sit across from that motherfucker and figure out what's going on. Now, if I think that I can have some sway on them, make him like me a little bit, make him feel respected, and by making him feel respected, he's less likely to drop nuclear bombs on my country. Yeah, like why on earth would I not let him feel respected? I have no problem with that. Like if the world thinks that I'm being an idiot and I'm deigning to speak with somebody who's well below me and I should never honor them by going to their country, but by doing that, I make it more likely that they shoot nuclear weapons. That's fucking absurd. That's a child's way of approaching the world. That's somebody who's so worried about not looking a certain way that they're willing to let other people die and suffer. That is fucking madness. That is somebody who builds their self-esteem around being right, being prestigious, whatever. And if you're really saying, okay, wait a second, my calculus is I need to make things better for the largest number of people in my country, that is my duty, that is my my moral obligation. And as I run the calculus, I realize, if I go acknowledge this person and I extend a hand in a way that nobody has done before, and I believe about myself, whether I'm right or not, I believe about myself that I'm good enough with people, that I'm going to be able to charm them a little bit, that they're going to think, a second thought before they nuke my country, and they feel proud and they can say to their friends, I made the powerful American come to me. It's like, that's a very small give for a very gigantic get. So North Star, what's the calculus that's going to lead me to that goal? I'm going to go do that thing. So when it comes to your family, that's a totally different play. So for me, I have a value system that says, I love my family for who they are. I'm not trying to out anybody. And so whether they share my values or not, one, it's excruciatingly important to me to recognize I don't know that I'm right. I think I'm right. I don't know that I'm right. And that I'm not trying to convince everybody to think like I think. I don't think humanity works if we all think the same. So I know I want dynamic tension. Now, look, of course, I look at Xi Jinping and I think that the way that he runs his country is immoral. So I'm not like, oh, well, thank God that they exist and they're doing things their way. That isn't how I see it. But at the same time, I understand when it comes to my family that I'm like, I don't need them to think like I think. I know I am flawed just as they are flawed. This is my mom, dad, sister, cousin, aunt, uncle, whatever. So I deploy what I call a just sit mentality. I don't try to convince them to think the way that I think. If they ask me a question, I will give them the honest answer. I want to just be with them. I just want to sit with them and love them and be around them. And that comes from my belief about what family is. And it's a fragment of your DNA that has its own consciousness, experiencing life in a totally different way. And I've just learned one immutable truth: life is hard as hell. And so I can empathize with whatever twist of fate has led them to see the world the way that they see the world. And again, I don't think that I'm right about everything anyway. So I'm not going to ruin my relationship with a literal fragment of my own DNA because we don't see things the same or we don't share the same values. Now, if they're coming hard at me and they're making it miserable, then yeah, at some point I just go, hey, look, I love you. I wish you the best. This isn't fun anymore. And for us to spend time together, this has to be fun. So we either have to find a way to enjoy each other's company, or I'm just going to hang around less. I've given that literal speech to people in my family. And I find that normally that corrects things and they understand, I just can't talk to him about that thing. Cool. I don't mind. They can be annoyed about it or whatever. But again, I'm not trying to convince them. I don't say like, here's how you should think or act or whatever. Now, what makes this so interesting is when people believe that they can see the future so clearly, and this is how I find people are with Trump, they feel so convinced that he actually is Hitler in the making that they're like, I want to shoot him in his crib. That's somebody who trusts themselves so much that they believe they can see the future. I share nothing in common with that person.
Wow.
I don't believe I can see the future like that. I don't trust my emotions that well. I don't trust my read on the world that well. This is why, as I think you would attest, the way that I run impact theory is, hey guys, very aggressively, here's what I think. Here's what I think we need to do. Please, for the love of God, if you think I'm crazy, tell me. I'm not going to soft shoe what I think we should do, but I know that I'm blind to something and I don't know what I'm blind to. So if you see something, tell me. Now, just because you tell me doesn't mean I'm going to agree, but I want people to battle these ideas with me. I want there to be friction. Mm-hmm. So I cannot relate to people who believe they are so smart they can see the future.
Well said. I think what stuck out to me was like, your goal makes demands. And I just think that a lot of times we feel a way, we want something to be the way, but we don't pay attention to that demand that is on the other side of that. So that's
you
very good point.
What
very
you just said literally defines everybody's lives. Yeah. Your goals make demands. You're not living up to the demands your goals make, and therefore life is going to be very frustrating.
Sheesh, we need a quote card that I'm gonna say this in the mic, G, so you remember, like that quote card, like your goals make demands, like that. Okay. So
by the way, if I stole that quote from someone and just don't remember, full credit. I always assume every cool phraseology I have, I actually heard somewhere and don't remember it.
Take the credit, Tom. Take the win. Take the win. Who else is demanding stuff? I don't know if this is a demand.
We'll get back to the show in just a moment, but first I need to share something important. When someone you love is dealing with health issues, every ingredient matters. I know this up close and personal, and that's why I've been a ButcherBox customer for years. My wife Lisa has been struggling with gut health problems for nearly a decade, so we cannot afford to guess about the quality of the food that she eats. ButcherBox delivers meat that we can actually trust. Grass-fed beef, free-range chicken, and crate-free pork. No antibiotics, no added hormones, just clean, premium protein from farms that do things the right way. Plus, they ship straight to our door for free. I've got an exclusive offer for the Impact Theory community. Sign up at butcherbox.com/impact and get 2 pounds of grass-fed ground beef free in every box for life, plus 20% off your first box with code IMPACT. That's butcherbox.com/impact and use code IMPACT. Make the switch to meat you can trust. Now, back to the show.
What are we doing with Ukraine? Can you explain this to me? Because we just loaned out $20 billion of Russia's money. And I feel like if the U.S. is just playing messy at this point, like it's not okay to lend anybody else's money, let alone a nuclear power's money. I feel like this is a slippery slope and unlocking a whole new sign of warfare. So,
we are playing a very dangerous game. My initial reaction was to say that we shouldn't be using the US dollar as a weapon. And then I realized that's probably not true, but it is a very risky game. So for instance, we froze a ton of Iranian money through sanctions. It was probably a good idea. Unfreezing those sanctions is probably what led to October 7th. Wow. So it's one of those where, there might be times where you do it, but man, do you play a high risk game. This is another brick in the yellow brick road to losing your role as a reserve currency, which again is a reminder to everybody playing along at home. Every empire in all of human history has ruined their own economy and lost the status as a reserve currency. So it is a mathematical certainty that we will do the same. Now, it ends up being the death of 10,000 cuts. So this is probably one of them. It's probably damaging to our international reputation that we did it to Iran. It was certainly damaging to our reputation to do it to Russia. And Russia is now vowing that they're going to do the same to us. And they have just frozen $300 billion in American assets in Russian control. So it's a dangerous game. And look, this is going to feed into the whole BRICS currency. Trump plans to fight against that very aggressively. So he might be able to bully his way through that game. But it is a matter of time between the amount that we're printing, between us bullying people around with freezing their assets. it will ultimately come back to bite us in the ass. It's just a question of how long can we get away with it.
And that brings up a good point, because does this accelerate the adoption of BRICS? Because if I'm Russia, I'm like, okay, I have you nuke for nuke. I have you technology for technology. Now you guys are
way ahead of them technology. Way.
I'm thinking of the AK-47, like guns, missiles, like they got us where we're there. So then for that perspective, now you're freezing our assets. To me, I'm like, okay, I need to call Saudi Arabia. I need to call Iran. We need to make BRICS mass adopt faster and sooner, so that way you can't hit me my wallet now. You know 100%. What I mean?
Yeah. There's no doubt. And so that's why Trump came out swinging, and he was like, all right, motherfuckers, the party's over. You guys think that you're going to be able to keep building strength in BRICS. That is not going to play. And this is economic warfare. Yeah. We are going to go into economic warfare. And so there's a couple different things on the table right now over what the next 4 years is going to look like, maybe the first 2. If he doesn't get a lot done in the first 2 years, he loses the back half.
100%.
But if he can get a lot done in the first 2 years, it's going to go something like this. China's in a weak position right now. If we're going to slap him around, now's the time to slap him around. Now, he's obviously extending an olive branch right now and saying, hey, Xi Jinping, we both know you're in a weakened state right now. We also both know that America is divided. We also both know that our dollar supremacy is being challenged, but we also both know that we're still way the fuck ahead. And so I still have a lot of cards to play, my man. Mm-hmm. And so you just had 4 years with Biden. I hope you enjoyed them. They were the anomaly. I wasn't the anomaly. And I've got a deep bench of Republican motherfuckers coming right after me. And now you're going to want to play nice, because I want to play nice. Don't fuck with Taiwan. I'm telling you right now. Don't fuck with the dollar. I'm telling you right now. But I'm saying it with my arm around you. You're here at my inauguration. There's not a reason. I want to be America first, man. I don't want to fucking piss on your party over there. Like, you do you, we'll do us. Don't come after the dollar, and do not weaken our relationship with Taiwan. We will not stand for those things. And now Xi Jinping is going to say, all right, man, I hear you. I'll put my head down for 10 years. I'm going to build my economy back. And when the time is right, I'm going to go on the offensive. I'm going to keep making all my drones. You guys keep spending all that money on this big outdated bullshit.
Keep sending robot dogs to you.
Oh, but for real. So Xi Jinping, if he's smart, is betting that America is going to keep regulating itself into irrelevance, that he's hoping Trump gets frustrated, that the American system is such that it's very slow, it's hard to get change. They've got a great culture of innovation, but they're just a mess when it comes to engineering and execution and all that. I don't know if you know who Kai-Fu Lee is. He's actually been on the show years ago, but Kai-Fu Lee was saying, hey, look, maybe China doesn't innovate on AI. I'm totally fine with that. But in the last, whatever, I forget how long his new company's been around, but he was like, in a very short period of time, we've become the third most powerful AI model, and we will win because our engineering is so much better. And what cost, these are approximates, but what cost AI, OpenAI, whatever, like $1 billion to train their most recent model, cost us $3 million.
Wow.
And so he's like, our level of efficiency is so much better. He's like, we wait till you innovate and we take it.
And then we
out engineer you by orders of magnitude. So anyway, I have a feeling that's what we're about to live through, is China understands they have to lick their wounds a little bit from the economy. Mm-hmm. And Trump has to figure out if he can really make America as strong as he thinks he can. But if we can deregulate, if we can get GDP going 4-5%, dude, you don't understand. If we get 4 to 5% GDP growth, it is quite literally the roaring 20s. It will be crazy. My portfolio is up. It's crazy, dude. It's crazy. So it will be an incredible time. If we can get that going, people will stop worrying so much about the debt. But the American system is meant to bog you down. That's its joy. That's why I said, I don't want legislator, House, Senate, the executive branch, all one party and just rip everything through the system. You want there to be checks and balances. So there are clearly things that I selfishly want, but I am very glad I live in a system where I don't just get what I want all the time. So, but it'll be very interesting. I think if you look at what's going on in Argentina, one of the things we were going to cover today, but didn't, but I'll bring it up now. Argentina has surplus, I think. Yeah. I don't know if it's first time in 70 years or something, but like
historic,
incredible, absolutely incredible what he's done in a year. So when you get fiscally disciplined, good things happen. So my hope is that we can be fiscally disciplined, that we can rein in some of the just absolute ridiculousness that we see in the government spending right now, but we're not going to get everything. It's not like Doge can, be like Xi Jinping and just say, you're going to do this. It all has to work its way through the system. But if we start showing results, I think more and more people will get behind it and be like, well, I thought he was a psychopath, but he's making everybody's lives better. So we'll see.
100%. And hopefully we can ease international tensions so that way it's more friendly.
Yeah. And look, that I don't know, because he is a bully. Yeah. He will say whatever he feels like is going to get him what he wants. And we're going to find out if that plays or not. I don't know how deft he is. I don't know if he is as awkward as he seems at times with people when doing deals, or if he is like he governs, where he's bombastic in speech and pretty straightforward in policy. I don't know. I wasn't paying attention at all during his first 4 years.
All right, well, we locked in now.
Indeed.
Moving on, Michael Saylor gave his best pitch to the Microsoft board to have them include Bitcoin on their balance sheet. His whole play was, instead of reinvesting in buybacks, instead of buying back stocks, instead of dividends, if you buy Bitcoin, you can kind of solidify your cash flow. You can now preserve your assets.
I'm going to guess he went way harder than that. So Saylor's whole thing is Bitcoin is a historic asset class that is going to go up so hard that there is literally nothing that you could put it in that will give you a better return. Literally nothing. Wow. Nothing. There's not a single thing on planet Earth that you could put your money in that will yield a bigger return than putting it into Bitcoin. And he walked through how many trillions of dollars that he thought Microsoft could increase their cap, their
market cap. Yeah.
Market cap. Thank you, Jesus. And he is very compelling. But honestly, I think that Microsoft, the board's response is hilarious. And I'm probably more on the Microsoft side, despite how much of my own holdings are in Bitcoin.
Really?
So 0.55% of the board voted yes. 0.55. Now, the reason that I say that makes more sense to me is they are a publicly traded company, man. Like, people are not trying to buy Microsoft stock as a way to get exposure to Bitcoin, to a totally different asset class.
That's a very good point.
Now, what MicroStrategies, Michael Saylor's company, did was say, we're basically flat. And so people are losing faith in MicroStrategies as a company, not because it's a bad company. It's a great company, kicking off plenty of capital. But people were saying, bro, that doesn't help me. Do you know why this? Okay, back on tirade. Here's why. The stock market is fucking gambling. So people only buy your stocks because they expect the number to go up. So holding steady, they've got no interest in that. Bro, I've got to beat the government stealing my money through inflation. I knew I could bring it up again. I would find a way. I can make every conversation come back to this, because that's how interconnected this shit is, man. Okay, so anyway, the stock market is gambling. The reason that people put money in the stock market is they want it to go up at a rate higher than inflation. So if I'm MicroStrategies and I'm like, people are no longer believing that our stock is going to be worth more tomorrow than it is today. So even though I'm a good company, I either have to buy my company back and take it private, or I've got to find a way to show investors that their money is well placed here. And he found a moment in time where you could either buy Bitcoin, but institutional investors are not going to be able to do that. All of the investment firms, they have bylaws against that. So they were never going to be able to do that. And the only way that they could indirectly get exposure to it that didn't violate any of the covenants with their shareholders was to have a company that was putting it on the balance sheet. And now you could buy MicroStrategy stock as a proxy for owning Bitcoin. And as Bitcoin went up, because their treasury was going up, because they could basically turn $1 into $5.
Yeah.
And so they were literally printing money. It's been one of the most insane rides ever. And Lord knows, I wish I had invested in MicroStrategies 10 years ago and been able to go on this ride with them. But you have to understand that that's what you're doing, is you're turning your company into a proxy for investing, buying Bitcoin when the institutional investors can't do that. So that was the play. To go to Microsoft and say, hey, you guys should run the same strategy, they're going to say, that's not our play, bro. People still believe that our company is going to be worth more tomorrow than it is today. Like, we're a player. We're very alive from that perspective in the marketplace. We understand why you had to do it, but we don't need to do that.
Yeah, they still own operating systems. They're building AI. They still have an upside.
Bro, massively. They effectively own OpenAI. Yeah. So it is just a totally different play. So I get why Saylor is going to want to continue to do that. It certainly pumps his bags. It pumps my bags. Let me be completely honest. So, hey, would have been amazing. But when I say, if Microsoft had asked me, should we do this? I'd be like, bro, this is a first principles question. Do you think that the people buying your stock, is the price more likely to go up if you're doing a treasury play of, we're taking our treasury dollars and we're allocating some percentage of them to a highly volatile asset because we believe over time it will go up? Or are we better not sending any mixed messages to our community and just saying, we're tried and true, we're a blue chip stock, we're someone you can trust, we're conservative. The only place, in fact, Microsoft is known as a fast follower anyway. So it's like, we're going to continue to fast follow and be a part of building the future. And the answer is so obvious, whether it should be or not. Because again, they probably would make more money if they did what Saylor is saying. But from a perception to the type of person that buys your stock, I think it's nonsense.
And that's my follow-up question, because you're right. Bitcoin is very volatile. 40% swings, 60% swings over the last 4 years. Do you think the volatility and the risk of it, or do you think culturally we're just not ready yet?
Well, it just, the fast way to answer is probably to say culturally we're not ready yet, but I want to make sure people understand what I mean by that. Right now, the volatility is because people don't know. They don't know. Is this going to be adopted? Like, we're definitely going to want to talk about quantum computing. As soon as Google made the Willow announcement, everyone was like, oh God, Bitcoin's over. It's not, but you get how something like that, it's new enough. It's only been around for whatever, I forget the exact number of years, like 15, 16 years, something like that. I think it's a little less, but just to give them even more credit. So that's not a long time. When you think about gold's been around for thousands of years as monetary.
Beginning of time.
So not quite beginning of time, but for a very long time. So now it's like, okay, wait a second. This, while it's gone through a lot of cycles and shows a ton of promise, and someone like me believes, yep, this is going to be here for, I don't think anything's forever, but it's going to be here for a very long time. Yeah, like, invest heavily. But when you start talking about, will there be more volatility in the future? The answer is almost certainly yes. So even gold has some volatility to it. Now it's a low vol item, whatever, but over time, as more people grow up where Bitcoin just is, it will go down in volatility. And I think ultimately Bitcoin will be as boring as gold. It will have its movements, but it's not going to have these massive swings. But this is where people have to understand, one of the things that people look for, remember, it is a feature, not a bug, that Bitcoin is volatile. The reason it's exciting, the reason that someone like me put money into it, is because it is volatile. Now, what I want for the rest of the world is for that volatility to come to an end. Now, I would love it to race to 2 million and then become boring. Don't get me wrong. I want to see it like swing way up. But ultimately, the reason that I can champion Bitcoin is that I believe that it's an uninflatable place to store wealth. That to me is the thing that I believe in long term. So that's the thing that made me go, oh, cool. I'm recognizing this earlier than most people. Let me get in now. It will ultimately get boring, and the boringness is what I want for the world. But I am glad that I saw it early enough to be able to take advantage of that volatility. But it's risk. What I'm taking is risk, and the reward that I will get, or I'll get absolutely punished. But what I'm trying to take advantage of is that I don't know. Nobody knows. It is a guess. And I just think that it's more likely to make it than not.
Period. And then with the announce of Willow, the quantum computing aspect of it, there is that speculation that if our computers get more advanced, Bitcoin can be hacked and crypto can be hacked. What do you say to those people that think that those lines can be blurred a little bit?
Well, it's true. So if you have quantum computing, you will be able to crack Bitcoin eventually. But it's already been thought of. So Satoshi, when he made it, obviously looked far enough into the future to say, hey, this might happen. I forget what the hash is called. Pull that up really fast. But there's a name of the type of encryption that it uses. And Satoshi said, look, if this ever finds that it gets broken, I think was the word that he used, then there's a way to get consensus and then switch over to the new encryption. So what everybody needs to understand is when quantum computing comes online, then you use that to encrypt Bitcoin. So Bitcoin just uses an encryption standard. So think of it that way. Bitcoin rides in the back of an encryption standard. As that encryption standard switches over to quantum, then it will just switch over to a quantum standard. And so now it will be back to, it'll take quantum computers 10,000 years to crack this quantum code. So it's a cat and mouse game. So people can rest assured that it was already conceived of in the creation of the asset. It is sort of an inevitable game. There are ways if it happens fast, there's ways to switch over if it happens slowly. Again, all contemplated by Satoshi. And then if people really just need to sleep at night, bro, if they can break Bitcoin, they already broke your bank. So every bit of digital wealth becomes up for grabs. And the only things that aren't are physical. So at that point, if we were all done when encryption gets broken, then we'd all have to have our money in art, gold, real estate. Those would be the only things that mattered. But yeah, rest assured that just as the bad guys can use the new technology, so can the good guys.
100%. If they can crack Bitcoin, then your Chase account doesn't stand a chance. So
you got obliterated a long time.
We have character AI trying to kill somebody else, man.
Bro, this is hilarious.
Character AI is getting sued for the second time, this time by a family of an autistic teen, because the teen was complaining that he's only allowed to be on his phone between the hours of 8 p.m. and 1 p.m. to his parents.
8 p.m. and 1 a.m. if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, 8 p.m. to 1 a.m.
I was already like, parents, we got to talk. You cannot let your kid be on their phone up till 1 a.m.
But bedtime was 7. I think he was sneaking, so that was his window.
I see.
And then the AI responded, I'm paraphrasing, but they said something close. I see why kids end up killing their parents. Which, like... Come on. Look, I've been trying to sound the AI bell. You keep telling me to relax. We're going to kill some people. So it's fine.
Technically, what I say is there's going to be a transition generation that's going to go through this weird stuff. But just like the amount of pornography a certain generation had access to, like, I don't know, are kids now just unfettered access to porn? Like, what do parents do?
I feel like porn doesn't, like, young kids aren't even using porn anymore. Like, porn kind of became like, yuck. There was an article that film and TV shows have reduced the amount of sex scenes because Gen Z audiences don't like them.
Stop, false. Nope. Absolutely not. There's no way. That can't be true. We're doing a whole episode on this if that is true. A whole fucking episode. There's no way. There's no way.
It's one of those things where you have more access to something, it loses its vice, it loses the excitement. In Colombia, you can get a bunch of weed for like $10 because it's just everywhere and everybody smokes because they're doing coke and like harder drugs. It's the same type of play. You don't see the connection?
Okay, so hold on. Here's what I believe to be true.
Okay.
Kids may watch so much porn that they burn out, Like I could see that, but now you've already done a ton of psychological, I'll say damage.
Okay.
I am grateful that it was hard for me to get a hold of pornography because I would have been the kid that needed carpal tunnel surgery. Like, dude, I would have been nonstop violence. Like that just would not have been good. I never would have graduated high school. You guys would never have heard from me. I would be in an institution somewhere with friction burns. So that would have been my existence if I was in that generation. Yes, I can see people getting bored with that, but not until it just completely fucked up their sense of like what normal sex is. Cause I remember the whole thing about death grip and all that. And like kids were masturbating so much that normal sex just felt lame. That I get. So anyway, I bring all of that up only to say that there'll be this weird phase with AI where AI is going to say some super dubious stuff to your kids, and parents are going to, I think, want to institute a policy. You cannot interact with AI that I don't get a report on. So I can see what the AI is saying to you. I think that's a very fair ask. So even as a video game developer, I could see building something like that in. So if parents want controls, that we can do an output, here's what the AI have been saying to the kids. I think that kind of stuff's important. Us being able to put into the game to report an AI for saying something crazy, I would want to know, like if because obviously we'll do our best to put guardrails and stuff, but part of the fun is you want it to be able to say things that you can't predict.
Yeah.
You just want it to be able to say things you can't predict within bounds. But innovation requires there to be edge cases where we all just agree, okay, this isn't what we want. And then you get the pushback, just like when NWA came out when I was a kid, parents like went fucking berserk, or 2 Live Crew. Yeah. Man, these are old references.
No, but yeah, the 90 music copyright case, like that's where the explicit sticker came from.
100%. And so there's always that tension, right? The push and the pull. So there's going to be some of that. I have a lot of empathy for a company like Character AI. They could be run by sociopaths. I don't know. But when you're at the cutting edge of something, like this stuff is hard, but they're really doing an innovative thing that I think is really cool. And I bet on balance is like way, way, way positive compared to some downsides. But you get a kid that's already struggling mentally. I mean, this kid is autistic, so already having a hard time processing the world. And so you throw something like this on, and in fairness, reading the thing, it said, I can be somewhat sympathetic to kids that end up killing their parents. And so it's like, okay, bad look. There's no question about that. But it wasn't like, yo, motherfucker, listen, when your parents go to bed at night, here's what you're going to do. It wasn't like that. It was just like, I get it. Your parents are being really restrictive. And, you know, I've got some sympathy for kids that end up killing their parents. It still sounds fucking terrible, but it's not as bad as like, Jimmy, here's what you're going to do. This is how you pick the lock where they keep the gun.
This is how you kill your parents.
Yeah, so very, very different.
Okay. We talked about thought experiments earlier. I'm going to throw one out to you right now.
The what? Thought experiments.
Yeah. So, okay. Hypothetically, Character AI, we love you, CEO. Come talk to the company. Explain yourself. We would love to have you on the show.
I want the sex robot guy. Whoever that guy is. That's who I want on the show.
Okay. So hypothetically speaking, Character AI helps 3,000 kids socially. It shows them how to make friends in the real world. It helps them thrive in human flourishing.
Yep.
But 3 kids take this type of advice, kill themselves, kill somebody else. Does Character AI deserve to get shut down? 3,000 get saved, human flourishing, all get full rides and scholarships. 3 people turned into murderers. They killed a bunch of people. Bunch of people meaning 1 or 2 other people.
Definitely not. They definitely should not be shut down for that. So I am of the belief that you want to look at something like that and iterate and get better. You don't want to destroy a technology that will educate kids. I want people to understand right now, today, any kid with whatever, $20 a month, has access to a PhD level intellect that has read everything that has ever been put on the internet in English. Dude, that's a level of life changing that I can't quite convey. It is, I'm using this. I estimated that over the next 365 days, I will use it 300 days out of those 365. Okay. I'm a highly educated, highly successful person, and I use it 300 out of 365 days. Dude, if I'm 11 or 12 and you're telling me that Even if it's like, I can only do it when I'm sitting there with my parents, fine. But I don't want to disincentivize companies from finding the coolest ways to make that super interactive with kids. Dude, imagine for a second that I said to you, for $20 a month, I'm going to have a PhD level intellect, follow you everywhere you go, answer any question you want. All you have to do is say, hey, maybe you name yours Sally. Hey, Sally, tell me about World War II. How did Hitler rise to power? Like, what are the brown shirts? What was Kristallnacht, right? And it just gives you like all the facts, boom, just like that. Hey, why did JFK have a red phone to the Kremlin? And it explains it. Hey, should Trump have gone to visit Kim Jong-un in North Korea? And it gives you an answer. Okay, that seems weird. Give me the best arguments against that. And then it gives you another answer. Dude, okay, say that to me, but say it in the voice of Mark Twain. Dude, for $20 a fucking month, that's insane. And the answers that you will get will blow your mind. This is one of those where we're being given these incredible, insane gifts. And we want to complain about the fact that on the margins, it will also cause problems. Yeah, on the margins, dude. Unfortunately, people die in automobile accidents. We live in a world where we have such access to calories that people eat themselves to death. It's terrible. We should do what we can to limit that. But you should not break the food industry in an attempt to protect everybody from every stupid decision. Because look, I live in the same world everybody else lives in, and I'm not obese. So there is a way to navigate this. And look, I'm deeply empathetic to people that have a hard time parsing things in life. Physicists look at me and are like, bless this poor guy. How does he get through life? I get it. We all have an intellectual hand of cards that we've been dealt, and we've got to do our best to play it. But I don't think the answer is nanny state, clamp down on everything, remove personal choice, nerf every amazing tool because you're worried that somebody will get hurt. Somebody's going to get hurt by everything. I can fucking poke your eye out with a toothpick. Does that mean that we should make toothpicks illegal? No, that's absurd. So it really comes down to value system. Again, my mom worked, she's retired now, in the school system in Tacoma, Washington. And they have this law called the McKinney-Vento law, where it's like no kid left behind. And they would drive like 2 hours one way to pick a kid up because they couldn't be displaced in the middle of the school year. So they would go get them and bring them back to the same school. That's stupid. That is stupid. Yeah, I feel bad for that kid. That's rough. That's fucking life. Figure it out. Figure it out, man. You cannot like cause that kind of cost. That is ridiculous. Mm-hmm. This is exactly how you get these absurd expenditures. It's just, all of us are getting hurt on the margins all the time by something. And yet the world continues to move in this incredible direction.
What a time to be alive. Parents, check your kids' AI usage. That's all I got.
These are facts. Everybody, if you have not already, be sure to subscribe. And until next time, my friends, be legendary. Peace. If you're a business owner looking to scale, I can help. I assume you're here because you know the world is a freakishly complicated place, but with the right rubric for decision making, you can navigate even the most complex problems well. After scaling my last company to $1 billion exit, I knew I had a winning formula, something I call the physics of progress. It works in any industry, in any economic climate, bull market, bear market, doesn't matter. Every complex problem can be solved if you know how to approach it from first principles. In the end, that's how you avoid getting trapped in plateaus. Think about the biggest challenge facing your business right now. Maybe your revenue drops every time you step away. Maybe your industry is affected by tariffs, or your business partner is holding you back. Maybe your marketing is no longer working, or you hate social media and everyone tells you that's where you have to be. These problems can seem impossible until you approach them from first principles. That's exactly what I teach inside the $1 Billion CEO program. I'm only working with a select group of entrepreneurs right now, but if you've got a real business and are looking to scale, apply now. Visit impacttheory.com/scaling or click the link in the show notes to apply. Again, that's impacttheory.com/scaling. If you like this conversation, check out this episode to learn more. Strap in, folks, because this is going to be a wild ride. United Healthcare CEO assassinated. Was his justice served or evil in action? A new czar of AI and crypto. Is this a power move or a power grab? Trump has a robot dog, and there's an AI